So one of the questions I get asked all the time is, um, what type of business structure? LLC, sole proprietor, or S corp? So a lot of times I need to clarify. LLC is your business structure. Okay, it's not your tax structure. Sole proprietor or sole member, and S corp or partnership or C corp. Those are your tax um, structures. So you can be an LLC and be a sole member or an S corp or C corp, any of those, or a partnership. You can also be any of those without being an LLC. So, but most businesses start out as an LLC. Why? Because it gives you the legal protection against your personal assets, right? And it's the easiest thing to set up when you're first starting a business. You don't need to have an LLC when you're starting a business. You can just start a business in your own name and you don't need to do anything. You don't even, you just file it under your social security number, Schedule C on your tax return. So, a lot of people don't know that. They think they have to set up an LLC. You don't have to set up an LLC. An LLC protects you, your personal assets, from anybody that would sue your business. Your personal assets are then protected as long as you follow a bunch of rules. So I'm not going to get into all of those. But what I wanted to talk about today is what's better for you. Um, so as I mentioned, LLC is the structure, right? The legal structure of your company. And then most LLCs start out as a sole member LLC, which means you're taxed as if you were a sole proprietor. And there are benefits to that and not benefits to that. So, but you can often hear tax savings by creating an S corp, which is true. But here's the thing: when it comes to an S corp, there's going to be additional expenses that you incur if you go from a sole member to an S corp. Why do you save money on an S corp? So in a sole member, your profit is taxed federal, Social Security, Social Security and Medicare, federal Social Security and Medicare, state tax, local tax, all of that is taxed. Your profit of a sole member. Same as if you would have a paycheck, but you actually have to pay both sides of Social Security and Medicare. Your employer pays half of your Social Security and Medicare if you have a paycheck. So as a sole proprietor, you pay all of it. So the benefit to an S corp is you get to, your profit is no longer taxed Social Security and Medicare, and sometimes local if you have a local tax. It depends on your local. You'd have to ask here. But Social Security and Medicare, if you're a sole member, you get taxed 15%. It's a little over 15. I think it's 15.3%. So you save on your profit 15%. However, what you must do instead is run a payroll and file an S-Corp tax return. So your S-Corp tax return is going to cost you additional money. You're going to have to run a payroll, which is going to cost you additional money. You're going to have to give yourself a paycheck on that payroll because the government says you can't take 100% of your money and not pay Social Security and Medicare on. The government calls it a reasonable amount of salary. So you still get to take some of your profit, which isn't Social Security and Medicare tax, as long as you're taking a reasonable salary. What is reasonable? Best thing to do is talk to your CPA who does your taxes, because every CPA I've come across has a different idea. It's gray when it comes to the IRS. So I always advise my clients to talk to their CPA. But when's a good time to have that conversation with your CPA? I like to say when your profit is around 50,000 or higher. It's going to cost you, probably a couple thousand to run the payroll. It might cost you a couple thousand to do the S-Corp tax return. Like, you have to look into all those expenses. You're now going to have to pay unemployment tax. And by the way, you can never collect unemployment on the payroll portion of your money. But it's still, if you're at a certain profit, all going to be less expensive than if you pay that full 15% on your profit. So that's the difference. That's, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I do a whole inside my Profitable Business Academy. I do a whole module on this, and we talk about how to calculate it for you if it makes sense. Look at all the numbers. Um, so, but feel free to reach out if you have any questions on this, and I'm happy to help.